This is Sam Houston Sports Talk, your home for all the Bearcat talk. That's Luke Scott. I'm calling you. It's bowl week, ladies and gentlemen. The Bearcats will be going to NOLA to take on the Georgia Southern Eagles out of the Sun Belt in the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl. It's been quite a long few weeks, Luke. No, still waiting on the head coaching announcement. We've had plenty of players enter the portal since the last time we recorded a podcast, recorded our last pod. Uh, I mean, again, I don't know if it's just me, Luke, but it's definitely felt like a long time since the Bearcats last played football when they beat Liberty at home to end the regular season.
It has been a long time, and it's been a long time since both of us are going to be able to go to the game. That's super exciting that we're both going to be in New Orleans for the game alongside Christian Cortez. He's going to be helping us out on the
Yeah.
sideline, so it's going to be really fun. But it's been a long time since the Bearcats have played football.
Do you think it's just because of all the news cycle? Do you think that's why it's felt like so long? Because there's been like so much that has been going on and just a lot of talk. Because I feel like
Yeah.
every day I feel like every day it's either a player that's entering the portal or two, or just a head coaching update. And from what we know now, Luke, we're down to five finalists because of Samples letting Oregon know that he's going to be staying in Eugene. I personally have a good idea on who the two finalists are. We'll get more into that later. But all in all, Luke, this could be a very historic, important um, program defining week for Sam Houston. Not just the fact that they have to hire a new head coach, but the fact also they're playing in their first bowl game as an FBS program, a year removed from being 3-9. There's just a lot riding of this week, Luke, and I'm just grateful and happy to be along for the ride because this is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. But yeah, I mean, it has been a very draining couple of weeks just because of, yeah, like you said, the news cycle. Losing your coach, and then you go. Um, now you're on the search for one, and the players entering the portal, not necessarily leaving, but a lot of them entering the portal because they just don't know what's going to happen, and time will tell. And Colin, I think we're going to get an announcement um, here probably in the next couple of days. I would assume. Um, that's just kind of what I feel. That's what the team and the athletic department has been talking about. Knowing that before the bowl game, and now the bowl game's coming, later this week. So, if we're on schedule, it looks like it'll be coming this week. But it has been a draining. I mean, it's every day. You're seeing something new, and it's been fun. It's been good for business, but it's been. I'm ready for that process to be over, and I'm ready to get started on this bowl game.
One interesting note, a couple rather, I should say. There's been a lot. It's been pretty obvious that a lot of the defensive staff for Sam Houston is leaving, going to North Texas. But Luke, they are opting to go ahead and coach this bowl game. How huge is that? Especially with a lot of the players still sticking around that have entered their names in the portal, like Isaiah Cash, Caleb Weaver,
Mhm.
Chris Murray, and some other guys.
Yeah, it's huge, Colin, and you know, apart from that being a lot of them being your first team guys, your starters, um, them not deciding, okay, yeah, we want to play this game. They understand of what this game means um, for the school's history, for them to say that they brought the 3-9 team from last year, and you know trying to go 10-3 this year. There's a huge sort of pride that comes with that, and obviously they want to be connected to this type of history to be made. And also some of those guys that have seen it from the very beginning, from winning that national championship in 2020, my freshman year, and now to where we are now to play in the first FBS bowl game. There's a lot of um, there's a lot of they want to be here. They want to be able to play and wear Sam Houston for the final time potentially, right? And it's huge because those are your leaders, those are your first team guys, and we know, um, whether it's on the coaching staff or on the field, there's a lot of talent on this defense and offense, but we're talking mainly more of the defense. Defensive guys leaving, that's it's huge for everything. It's huge for the program because there's a healthy culture there. A lot of these players could have easily said, "No, we're entering transfer portal. We don't want to get hurt. We're gone. We're leaving." Um, but they're not. They're saying, "Hey, we want to stick it out and play one final time and play for history."
Yeah, it is it's just really cool to see. Like I think this gives Sam Houston a much bigger chance. Right now the line the last time I checked, Luke, was a 6 point underdogs for Sam Houston there, but the public seems to be kind of liking Sam Houston. Well, that kind of shifted quite a lot. The spread is still 6, as Sam Houston being the underdogs. The over under is 49. It was 46.5 to open, but that went up by 2.5 points. Georgia Southern, of course, favored on the money line as well. So it's projected to be a close game, a one possession game. It's just gonna and I think that's right, Luke. The I think Sam Houston's defense is going to keep Georgia Southern in check. We'll get more into them a little later on in this podcast. But how do you feel about the line, Luke? I think it's pretty accurate. It might move like half a point, one way or the other. I don't really think it matters which way it moves, but I think that's a pretty accurate line at the time being.
Yeah, I think anything within one score um, is pretty fair, and um, 49 points over under. That screams the under to me, but people are still betting it up. So we'll see on that. But I mean, I'm looking at this game and two defenses that have been making plays throughout all season. Um, Georgia Southern's defense. We just got the press conference with interim head coach right now, Brad Cornelson, um, and he was kind of talking about their defense and how fast they were. They had a lot of playmakers on the back end. They were very competitive up front. So I think you look at the two defenses, that's definitely the two stronger sides of the balls for both teams. So I think the line's fair. I love Sam Houston in this point. I think Sam Houston's playing for more. I think there's Georgia Southern's been in these bowl games before. This is our first time, so I think there's a strong will that, hey, this is not that Georgia Southern's our Super Bowl, but this is our Super Bowl. This is why we're here. This is why we're playing this game. I just think there's a whole lot more on the table for us than them. I think the players are going to respond to that. The hungry dog, runs faster, right? And so I think we are that dog. And hopefully New Orleans is good to us. It's always been, the Domes have been good to us in the past, back in NRG. So we'll see if we can do the same as the Superdome. But I think the line is fair.
Well, a
How
very
how excited are you to be in the Superdome?
I mean, I'm pretty excited. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm pretty excited. That's a sports bucket list thing that I can knock off. Going to another NFL stadium. I've only been to NRG stadium. I've never been to another NFL stadium, and the Superdome will be a nice second NFL stadium to knock off the bucket list. How about you, man? How excited are you?
I'm pumped. I New Orleans. I haven't been to New Orleans. New Orleans seems like a really cool place. There's a lot of history there. Superdome, Katrina. There is a bunch of things down there you want to go see, and um, this will be my third NFL stadium. I've been to the Cowboys Stadium, NRG, and now it'll be the Superdome. And I always said if I wasn't a Cowboys fan, I'd be a Saints fan. So mainly because of Drew Brees, but um, I'm really pumped to see all that down there.
A fun fact pointed out to a really great friend of the program, Ryan Humphreys. He tweeted out earlier that he would like to point out that Sam Houston has fared very well in NFL stadiums, winners in 12 of the last 13. Now, granted, in NRG Stadium, obviously. But hey, maybe we can carry some of that NRG charm all the way to good old New Orleans, Louisiana. And kind of just diving back into the game itself, looking at Sam Houston, the offense will be keeping a lot of its guys. It seems like the only change is if I find that find that too deep again because it just went away. But the only change it looked like was that Grant Gunnell was going to be the backup quarterback QB2 to Hunter Watson. And now that I mentioned it, Hunter Watson, he played a lot. He played the second half of the season pretty banged up. There's no secret about it. But I think it's pretty important that the fact that he's been able to get this rest. And yeah, you kind of worry about the rustiness and all that. But in this case, for Hunter Watson, I think the rest is really going to be a key factor going into this one against the Eagles.
Yeah, it should. Going into the Liberty game, Coach Q talked about that was probably the healthiest he's been in a long time. Hunter Watson was going into that game, and we saw a lot more out of him. And Coach Cornelison talked about in the press conference today. Talking about the passing game against Liberty, on how some of it was what they were kind of giving us, but some of it was the game plan as well. And we saw a good amount of Hunter Watson throwing the ball, and it looked pretty good. So I think this rest is huge for us. That's also kind of why I lean towards the under in this because of the rust factor. Just not playing in a game for a long time, but I think having the healthiest Hunter Watson's been in a long time is going to pay some huge dividends there in the game. I mean, we saw what he was able to do the first few weeks of the season and going into conference when he wasn't dealing with a shoulder or his neck or his leg, whatever it was. Right, it felt like it was something every other week. Um, it would be good to see him healthy and ready to go against this team because we're going to need him too because Georgia Southern's defense, is really good.
Yes, they are. We'll get more into that later. Looking more at the depth chart, it does look like the only change that really has been made is Jace Bowers not on the roster since he was the first player I believe to announce his that he was entering his name into the transfer portal. Obviously, and you mentioned him, Keeler. He obviously no longer here. Brad Cornelison, the offensive coordinator, will be taking over as the interim. It said at first on the game notes that he was going to be calling the game from the box, but then he said that he's now going to be calling it on the field. I find that some people may not think of it as like a as people will be like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, it's kind of it's an interesting thing because calling it from the box and versus on the field are two totally different things. Some coaches prefer one way or the other, and he seemed like it seemed like that he decided to like step out of his norm, just be on the field for this. I just maybe he might see things a bit better on the field because I mean it's one thing being all the way up there at looking down at everything. Like it may be a better point of view of seeing everything, but when you're down on that field, I feel like you kind of get a better feel of the game if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's something different, and it's just the preference. I know more times than not you see a good amount of the coordinators being up there just really so they can also relay information on the back end and tell other coaches of what they're seeing on the ground. But it will be different. It'll be an adjustment for him to have to make, and also the players. Usually they're on the headset talking to Cornelson or whoever would be up there, right? Whether it's position coaches or whatnot. But now it'll be different, right? They're going to be on the field, and so that line of communication is going to be different from where it's been all season, and they're going to have to adjust to that. And I don't think it'll be much of an issue, but I think it is fair to bring that up. Um, it's it depends. If you think if you were a coordinator, offense or defense, would you be a box guy or be on the ground guy?
I don't know. I feel like I'd be on the ground because I don't know. It's just for me personally. I want to get the feel of the game.
Hmm.
Personally,
Yeah.
for me now, maybe if I wanted to change things, yes, I would love to be on the at the top. I mean, I would rather I want to be I would rather be a defensive coordinator than an offensive coordinator because defense is more my I love defense. That's more my side of the ball that I like to pay attention to more often than not. Um, what about you, man? Do you prefer to be on the field, or would you prefer to be on the field or up in the box?
I don't know. I always thought it would be on the field, but I think I'd be a box guy.
Okay.
I think, but it also depends on where you are because, like, if you think about, at NRG where we are, as press and where the coaches are, that's a lot higher up than it is at Bowers or, whatever stadium, you're at. So there could be a point where it's just too high that you're from where you're used to, and then you'd be on the ground. But I think I'd probably be a box guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see how the play calling it will be because the play calling was has been under a lot of scrutiny, especially in the second half of the season when things were not going the offense's way. The defense, outside of Western Kentucky, kept doing their thing, um, kept keeping this team in winnable situations. I just wonder. I mean, in Liberty, the passing attack was a bit more prevalent. It's just that is that going to carry over into Georgia Southern, or is it going to be back to the bread and butter, which is trying to kill the defense death by a thousand cuts, running the football, screen passes, short passes to the outside, or is the offense going to be willing to take more risks, especially it being the final game of the year and for a bowl game.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some things that we just haven't seen yet this season. Teams are always doing that type of thing. They're ready for to throw some tricks, throw some deep playbook stuff, things that we haven't seen this year to trick, but also um, to swing the game. These bowl games, oftentimes it's so tough to judge because in bowl games now you have players sitting out and whatnot, or coaches, not being there. There's so many more different factors, um, than what it used to be. And so, it makes it different. And you can see these most of the time that these huge swing plays happen. Um, that's what dictates games. You can go back and all sorts of bowl games before. Even, I mean, it wasn't a bowl game, but the Army Navy game, huge fake punt, pretty much iced the game for the Navy. So I think we're going to see a bunch of that type of stuff coming into this one, and um, with also how stingy both defenses are up front and on the back end, I think you're gonna have to throw some tricks in there just to try to get some momentum, especially early. I think both teams are going to be pretty aggressive on fourth down too coming into this one. Um, it's interesting because Georgia Southern's real bulk of the schedule, I think, came very fairly early. In their season. Um, JMU, Marshall, Georgia State. Those are kind of the big dogs of their conference, right? And they played all of them back to back to back, all in a row at the very beginning, and they've kind of been. I mean, they've been good in the later half of the season, but you did see some slips there, and it's kind of the opposite for Sam. Our schedule was kind of a cupcake early, and then it really kicked off there in the end in conference play. So it's interesting. Very, 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 very similar teams, but very different types of schedules.
Hey, well, you look at the schedule for Georgia Southern football, and you look at it. Excuse me, and you look at this when they get into Sun Belt. Oh, they beat Georgia State, who beat Vanderbilt. They beat Marshall, who became Sun Belt, excuse me, champions.
Wild story that is. Wild
But
story
yeah,
that is. Marshall.
hey, at least it gives Conference USA an extra bowl team. That's
More money.
Monier. It's Monier. And but they went on to beat James Madison. I mean, James Madison obviously did not have the year they wanted to, but still you beat James Madison. But then they go on the road and they lose to Old Dominion 47-19. Go on the road to South Alabama, beat them 34-30. Then the next week go back you're home and you lose to Troy 28-20. I mean, this seems like a tough team to really, evaluate, Luke. Besides looking at tape, does the regular season really factor in much? However, when it comes to the bowl game, because these are two teams that have never faced each other at this
Yeah,
level,
that's
or
that's a
ever
great question.
have they ever faced each other? I don't think they have. Even in the FCS level, I don't think they have ever faced each other.
That's a great question because so many times, in bowl games, in high D1s, even in the lower D1s, right? You'll have these matchups where you look at teams and records could be completely different. I mean, the Las Vegas Bowl is going to be USC, who is 6-6. They're going up against A&M, right? I mean, it's those and very different schedules, and they're meeting there. I don't know why, but these they have a funny way of working themselves out, and oftentimes you'll see the teams that don't look as impressive look very competitive in these bowl games. I can remember the Alamo Bowl a few years ago. It was Texas and Washington, and that was before. It was the year before, or I guess it was 2 years ago, because last year was Washington was in the playoff, but um, Washington looked to be anything special coming into the season, and they looked really good, or coming into that bowl game. So teams. It just kind of depends on those teams. But the thing about Georgia Southern, I mean, traditionally App State is very good. Traditionally, Coastal Carolina has been very good. Um, this year they weren't. That was a 5-6 and a 6-6 team. Those were very mediocre teams. Um, and they also didn't play Lafayette. They didn't play Texas State. And I don't think they played Arkansas State either. And those were because the Sun Belt has divisions, and those were the better schools in divisions. They really picked on kind of the lower echelon of teams in their own conference, where we play everyone in ours except who was it, Middle Tennessee, right? So schedules are very different, but I don't look too much into it, but it is something to take note of.
We're talking Sam Houston Bearcat football taking on Georgia Southern Eagles. If you haven't already, be sure you subscribe today and follow us on all of our social media outlets, because when football is over, we're going to really try to kick up the content for basketball when it comes to conference season. And of course, baseball. College baseball is around the corner, folks, along with college softball. We're just a few months away from that. So be sure you subscribe today and keep up to date with all the content. We also may have some new things coming soon, depending on, as y'all see right now, I'm recording in a totally different location. I look like I'm recording inside a
Show them the view. Show them the view, Colin.
showing the view. Okay, yeah, this is, yeah, and
And
NRG Stadium's right over there, folks. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Recording here uh, at Sports Radio 610. I kind of have to, because I am up, because once I'm done recording with you, Luke, I'm driving all the way to Huntsville to watch those Dame Houston men's basketball take on St. Thomas. So, but yeah, sometimes you just gotta adapt to the situation. But back to the game. Let's now take a look at Georgia Southern. We haven't really had, as with my work schedule, I haven't really had the time, and I've just been so, exhausted and tired to really look. And pardon me if I go rambling, because I'm running on 2.5 hours of sleep, and I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. But either way, one big thing you notice pretty quickly when it comes to Georgia Southern, with their offense specifically. Derwin Burgess Jr., 53 catches, 603 yards, 3 touchdowns. The catches themselves, Luke, are pretty interesting. That is going to be it's his third straight season recording at least 50 catches. So while he's not lighting up the stat sheet when it comes to yards and touchdowns, they really trust this guy.
they do, and they look to get him involved often and early, and he's a real volume guy. Kind of was kind of similar to Noah Smith in previous years. Working out of the slot and out wide too, for that matter. But getting Noah Smith the ball early and often, getting him his catches, and he's a definite weapon for the Georgia Southern team. And this year we didn't see that really much out of Noah, getting him the ball, 10, 12 times a game. up really until recently. But in previous seasons, that it's kind of a similar role to that. He's a little bit bigger than Noah, but it's a very similar type role that they play.
Yeah, I mean, but on for another receiver to look out for, Josh Dallas, 41 catches, 568 yards, 5 touchdowns. Another guy that they like to rely on. They have another guy with over 50 catches in Dalen Cobb. So it seems like an offense, Luke, that really likes to throw the football. So this Sam Houston secondary is going to be tested once again.
Yeah, they spread it around too.
Yeah.
They have a number of guys with touchdown catches. It's not just one guy that they target or two guys they target in the end zone. They're not afraid to throw it to their backs. The quarterback can run a little bit. They really spread it around. Not necessarily an air raid offense, but I mean they still run the ball, pretty effectively.
So kind of
But
like
yeah,
with
they're
Texas State in a way.
yeah. I wouldn't say they have the um, I don't know. Mahdi was something different. He was more of a different animal. Jalen White's a good player for them, and so is Arnold um, for Georgia Southern. But I wouldn't say they have that quality of player. But they definitely have the quantity. They definitely have the athletes up and down the lineup that you have to be ready for.
Yeah, and that was one thing that Coach Cornelson really made sure that he made note of in the press conference that concluded about almost an hour or no 20, or 30 minutes ago or something like that. The speed of this team of Georgia Southern. Well, good thing for us, Luke. We have athletes as well on Sam Houston. So I think I don't think Sam Houston's gonna get out athleted. Is like what I like to say. I think it's going to be about just making, you know, I think it's just going to go down to the small details of the game, uh, like making sure that you stick to your assignments, getting tackling. I think tackling is going to be pretty big, especially in this game. I say this quite a lot. Tackling, like no crap calling. It's part of playing defense for football. Well, you'd be surprised how there's a good gap of tackling when it comes to the skill of tackling. Like there's teams that are
Yeah.
really good at it, and there's other teams that are not good at it. While that team that's not good at tackling could be really good in coverage, and the other team that is at tackling that could tackle really well, not too good in coverage. I think Sam Houston has this year the defense. It has been a really good balance of both and being good in coverage and good in the open field when it comes to tackling. And it's just, again, it comes back to the point being off for so long, and also, I mean, I'm not. They are still playing, Luke, but a lot of these guys have been taking visits to other schools over the past few weeks, and that have entered their name in the portal. I'm not saying it's going to really affect. I mean, just the fact that they're playing. I mean, it tells me that they want to be there. They want to go out strong. They want to make history for Sam Houston. And I think they're pretty hungry, and I think I'm well assured about this game than before because I thought that there was a chance that it was going to be like a Marshall situation to where we were going to miss so many guys. I think we were still going to play, but it's just the fact we were going to miss so many guys.
I think if it was the fact that if we were, 6-6 or kind of 7-5 coming into this one, I think the story might be different with guys sitting out. But I think the opportunity and that vision that they all had before this season of not just getting to a bowl game, but really, taking a step in conference, out of conference, getting to that 10-win mark is a huge accomplishment, especially for a school in our spot at our size. And it's very similar to Georgia Southern. I mean, obviously Georgia and Texas, two of the biggest hotbeds in recruiting, right? A lot of athletes come from both states. I'd probably say Georgia is probably taking over Florida for being probably the second or third biggest behind California and Texas. Texas, of course, being number one always. But I think it's it means a lot for these players, and that's why they're here. You talk about open field tackling and playing that type of defense and being disciplined back there. We are one of the least penalized teams in the country. I think Georgia Southern's kind of in the middle of the road there, but we're one of the least. And I think that comes with a lot of the leadership, and a lot of these players have been there and done that before. Whether it's in the FCS or FBS, coming from other programs, or whether they're true Bearcats staying from freshman to senior year. This game means a lot for these guys. One thing I want to mention is the special teams. Early in the year, our special teams unit was doing great, and it kind of hit some woes there. Um, Georgia Southern's kicker, 13 for 16 on the year. 4 for 5 in the 40 yards, and 150 plus. He missed one from 50 plus. He was 1 for 2 there. As long as a 53-yarder. So it's a team that can hit field goals where we haven't been able to. So I think the special teams is going to come down to the wire in that one, and we really need to operate very well on that end of the spectrum. I think Cardell, the punter, has been very good, and so is theirs. So I think the special teams and that type of defensive ball game, that's where it comes down to.
And what do they always say about special teams, Luke?
What do special teams can win and lose you games?
Yeah, it's
Is that what you were thinking?
wasn't the quote? I thought the quote was special teams may not win you games, but they can lose you games. I thought that was the quote.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's special teams, special plays, special players. Yes, brother. All right, I'm not diving into that can of worms right now.
Whatever happened to Sketch? He kind of fell off. I haven't seen him in a little bit.
He did kind of fell off. Last time I saw him, he was advertising for Prize Picks, but that's neither here or there. But looking more at Georgia Southern, kind of just tipping over to the defensive side of things. Marcus Watson Trent. He played in only 11 games, but 110 total tackles. My goodness, this guy seems like he's going to be all over the place for the Eagles.
Yeah, it's very similar to kind of Trevor Williams, right, from our past years, and now Gaither, I guess now, but the sheer number of tackles. He's not necessarily the tallest guy. He's only 5'11", but the dude just finds the ball. He's everywhere in the field. He rushes the passer a little bit too. They're not afraid to send him in the backfield and try to get to whoever's back there and playing quarterback. He's definitely a guy to watch out for. In that linebacker crew, and and also on the back end. What a name, Gamble. The Chance Gamble. What a name for a corner, right?
That is such a that is so coincidental that it's not. I that's just like I don't know how to describe it. That's just pretty awesome.
It really is. It really is. He's a guy in the backing. That's a guy to watch out for too. Also, Tracy Hill Jr. He's also another guy. So it'll be very interesting to see what goes on back there. They're a team that runs a lot of nickel as well. So it's very similar, Colin.
And kind of going back to Watson Trent, he was voted as the Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year and was named to the first team All Sun Belt Conference for the second year in a row. Last year, he was named as an honorable mention on All American by Phil Steele. This sounds like this guy could be playing on Sundays from the way that
Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah, this guy sounds like he could be playing on Sundays soon. Chance Gamble, he was selected to the second team. Um, so they got some. Their offensive line is actually pretty decent as well. So they got some dudes on that team. Luke, I think. Let's see. Mike Green. Okay, yeah. There's gonna be Georgia Southern's defense got some dudes. So this could legitimately be a defensive battle because of how good both these defenses look.
Yeah, and it'll be a really, it might be kind of an ugly game, but I think it's going to be a really intriguing game.
So it's one of those
for
games.
us.
It's one of those games that is just looks sloppy, but it isn't because it's just the
Yeah.
fact that both those defenses are really good.
Oh yeah, yeah. Neither. I mean, teams. I mean, neither team misses tackles. That's one thing you could say about when you get one hand or you get some arms on these guys. They tackle really well. In the open field, Cornelson talked about it. Just them just being physical and fast. I mean, it's two very similar teams, and it's sometimes people say styles make matchups, right? This is two heads that just are gonna butt against each other, and it's very similar teams. I mean, I don't want to get into my prediction already, but
Yeah.
it's kind of looking like it might be a 17-20 type game, 14-17. I mean, it's just going to be one of those games where who blinks first, right?
Well, we are going to get to the predictions and keys for this game, but now, Luke, I kind of want to shift real quick to the talk of who the next
Mm,
head coach for Sam Houston is going to be. Um,
yep.
Mike Craven of DCTF, Dan Campbell's Texas football. He reported that there were six finalists, but and Rashad Samples, like we mentioned at the beginning of the pod, was one of those finalists, but he told Oregon that he was opting to stay in Eugene. So that leaves finalists with Phil Longo, Matt Powledge, Sean Bell. Excuse me. I've been also fighting a cold recently, so that's been a pain in the ass. But we ball nonetheless. And I'm trying to find that article real quick just so I know who the other names were. But kind of really, that doesn't really matter, Luke, because I feel like we already know I think I already can give you a pretty good inclination who the two finalists are. Just judging what I've been reading on social media and some tweets from other accounts and from you know just kind of people we've talked to, it seems like
Yeah.
it feels like it's between, and this is me purely guessing, it's either Phil Longo or Matt Powledge. What do you think? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think that's a good guess to say that those are the two finalists?
Yeah. What are the guys that? And I'll get to that point a little earlier or later. But one of the finalists was also the old Duncanville head coach, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm blanking on his name right
Yeah,
now,
I'm
but
trying to
I'll
find the
that
article real quick, but go ahead.
that one I was like, whoa, that's kind of a shot in the dark, and but we saw Texas Tech do that with Joey McGuire. I mean, I know he was at Baylor for like a year or two before going to Tech, but I think he was a Cedar Hill guy when Cedar Hill was really executing in the 6A and 5A. I think
Yeah,
at
there
that
you
point
go.
they were 5A too.
So it's Longo, Powledge, Samples you can take out, obviously. Curtis Looper, Missouri running backs coach, and Tim Dowse, current Deep Pitt defensive line coach.
Yeah, yeah. You talk about the two though, Powledge and Longo. I think there's a super strong uh, push internally and from ex players from the Briscoe days for Phil Longo because of the success that they had there. And Powledge, uh, defensive guy, been around the program from Huntsville. I mean, it's. I think it's two very good candidates. Um, I think we have different opinions on who you'd want and who I want. But
I
I
don't
think
know. I thought we already talked about this.
who did you want?
This is not the fact who I want. This is the fact of who I think it is going to be because I'm not familiar with Longo. I was in junior high when Longo was at Sam Houston. College,
Yeah.
I again I was probably in, yeah, I was in junior high when he was a fullback at Sam Houston. And of course, Bell, I was definitely not there and all that stuff. But if you want a prediction right now, if I were to put it down right now, Monday, December, what's today? 16th, 1:03:57 p.m. Central Time. I willing to throw out a prediction right now and say that Matt Powledge will be the next head coach for Sam Houston football.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I hope so. I hope so. I from what I've seen from Longo from in the recent his recent places where he's gotten fired a lot. That's kind of what I'm more concerned about, and part of that's just the circumstance, and coaching is different. Whereas if you work in a workplace, right, you work at your job, um, you could do a good job and not be fired. But in coaching, if you're the head coach's guy and they fire the head coach, you're gone too. Like that's just how it works. It's part of it's your fault, part of it's not. What I've seen from Powledge, um, him being at Baylor, being the safeties coach, being a defensive coach, when they had your boy Jalen Petrie, they won the conference. He was at Oregon, last year, and now he's back at Baylor. The DC Aranda, Aranda obviously being a really good coordinator and coach now. I think that's a guy that you'd want to get in here. Um, him playing for Sam Houston. He was a fullback, Colin. He was a fullback at Sam Houston. Just a real great guy. I think it'd be a good thing. And I'm not saying that Longo would be a bad coach. I think Longo would do fine, but um, I want someone a little bit younger too. I think a younger guy. Me being a young guy, I'd want a young guy.
Well, I think it's a pretty well, outside of North Carolina hiring Bill Belichick, it's kind of been a popular kind of trend for programs rather, that are looking for their next head coach to go young. You saw it with Texas State. You saw it with, well, I know it's FCS, but UIW. You saw it with Arizona
Oregon,
State. Go ahead.
Oregon with Dan
Oregon,
Lanning.
yeah, Dan Lanning, yeah, exactly. And you also saw it with UTEP with Scotty Walden going young, and there seems to be a lot of hype even after the first year of after the first season of Scotty Walden. There seems to be a lot of hype around him, but I think it's also the fact that Powledge also has Huntsville ties, like not
Yeah,
just ties, like he just knows people. Like he's from there, he grew up there. Um, and I think it'd be kind of a really cool thing to have a connection to the Huntsville community with university. I think that would go big down the line when it comes to support, growing the brand a little bit, building a relationship with the city and the university, and just building up the local brand up a little bit.
recruiting, Colin, recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting
If
as
I'm not
well.
mistaken, Phil Longo is from Delaware, right? He was from obviously when Keeler was there, but or was here, but he's not from the area. I think he would do a lot for um, for Huntsville and Sam Houston to get a local guy, to get a guy that knows Texas and has been around multiple stops here in Texas. Um, I think that type of person could really help with Sam Houston in recruiting, um, and really being able to recruit this area very well. I mean, we know Huntsville has a bunch of good athletes in the high school ranks. Both of us covered Huntsville football, but also Conroe, Willis, Woodlands, Houston, right? Of course we recruit from those guys, but getting a guy from East Texas, from the Houston area, I think he would do wonders for us. And a guy that went to Sam Houston, he understands coaching for your alma mater. That's something special and something that he probably really wants to do.
And it's also the fact that he's been at these other places like Baylor, where he's been getting the experiences, especially as a play caller. Now, I do know that there was a bit of a thing going on where Powledge was probably getting in some shaky ground being a defensive play caller, because you saw Dave Aranda take over the defensive play callings at the end of the year, which I didn't think it really made a big of a difference. I mean, Baylor was such a weird team this year. I mean, you know better than I do, of course. Um,
The offense was the issue for Baylor early, and they really they figured it out in the end.
yeah, I mean, I again, this is not like me breaking news or anything. This is just my opinion. This is my guess that Matt Powledge will be announced within the next few days to be the next head coach for Sam Houston football. I mean, I could be wrong, and then we look like complete idiots, but that's just how we feel and what we think could be best for the program. Unless there's some other candidate that we don't know about that's kind of like been hidden in the dark, kind of like Casey Keeler was. Apparently, Casey Keeler, that kind of news was kind of kept under the rug that nobody knew about. And then when he got hired, people were surprised by the hire. And look what happened: national champions, lots of conference titles, and and a move up into the FBS level.
Yeah, yeah. It's who knows what's going to happen. It could be from anywhere from some school from whoever it would be can come and just snatch up Longo or Powell just like that, and then you're down to one, right? I mean, it's the head coaching, the coach carousel. It's not a fun game to be in, and it can take a long time. It can be brutal, but you just have to stick through it. And I think, listening from the podcast with Bobby Williams and Jason Barfield, they do such a good job with that and kind of outlining and trying to be as open as possible. Obviously, they can't lay out everything, but just hear from them. They do a very good job about it, and I think you're right. We're pretty close to it, but you know, it could be at any point in time. Things change, and who knows? Someone could be throwing a whole lot of money into the program for their guy to come in. And that's just kind of the world sports is in now. But I'll be comfortable whoever they pick. Um, but I just want it to be over with.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
But
All right. Well,
a lot of times in like I know like in huge world soccer, NFL, even I guess even in college a little bit, but you have people tracking flights,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're saying, oh look, a flight from Foxborough just went down to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Bill Belichick, I wish we had that type of thing, but sadly Huntsville doesn't have an airport.
we have.
I guess
Well,
we do, but
I was about to say.
we have an airstrip.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, it's about time to start wrapping things up. As always, we end off these preview pods with a prediction and key segment. I I just look this while the head coaching search is important, Luke. There's still one more game to be played, and I hope that once kickoff approaches, once you and I are in our positions as credentialed media, which we're pretty thankful for to be credentialed. Of course, we want to extend thanks bigly to the athletics department, Ben Reichard, you know, for giving us these the credentials all season long, and then looking forward to next year. If just got one more, it's gonna be a long time since we're gonna see Bearcat football again. But I'm hoping that the Bearcats can end on a high note in 2024. It's time, Luke. Let's get to it. Keys and predictions. As always, I'll let you go first. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I kind of outlined it earlier, but I'll kind of go over it again. Colin, I see a low scoring, um, tough game. I'm seeing more towards a 17-14, a 20 to 17 type game where one of the kickers are going to have to make a big field goal. I think the offenses and defenses for both teams are pretty even, and the thing comes down to a special teams type play. Sam Houston's going to. I think we're going to turn them over. And I think Georgia Southern could turn us over. Um, if coming into this, and would you be surprised if you saw you know Hunter Watson throw for 200 yards, one touchdown and one pick? I could see that. Um, same thing goes for Georgia Southern. They can only throw for so many yards and turn the ball over. So I'm thinking it's gonna be a low scoring game. I'll throw it to be 19-16.
19-16. That is
No,
your
no, 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 no. That's too weird. That's too weird.
that sounds like a score
20,
he got to
20
go
to
to.
16. 20 to 16.
2016 what?
Cats, baby. Eat 'em up, cats.
It is interesting. We did make a note earlier in this pod that this is the time of year where teams are going to be pulling out all the stops, and we're going to see some different things that we haven't seen all year. Now, I'm not saying that's going to mean that Sam Houston's going to, you know, I'm not saying Sam Houston Georgia Southern's going to be a high scoring game. I think there's going to be offense. Like I think it's going to be a lot of long possessions, maybe
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of long and a lot of short possessions. We might see plenty of 3 and outs in this one, and I think third down defense is going to be a pretty big deal for Sam Houston to try to convert. Georgia Southern is 45% on third down conversions. It's not,
Yeah.
it's pretty decent. Um,
That's good. It's
could be
good.
could be better, obviously, but it's pretty
We
good.
just we just got to stay out of the 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 situations.
So
If we can
base
keep them to 3rd and long, we'll be okay.
yeah, so basically execute on first and second down defensively would be a way to put it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one big key on defense. I think secondary is just going to be another key thing to keep an eye on. But I think they'll be fine as long as they don't give up explosive plays. Because Luke, a defense can be really good, but then that one play happens that just blows everything open. Like I've seen it personally a lot with the Houston Texans this year. Like great defense, but then that one or two explosive plays happen every game. Thankfully, it didn't happen this past Sunday, but it is quite telling. It is quite interesting how defenses can be really good, but then not at the same time. But
Hey, you're telling me. You're telling me as a Cowboys fan.
oh man,
All I gotta say is if that practice squad, career man, whoever he is, if he doesn't touch that punt, we win that game. We're 7-7 right now. We're 7-7 right now, and we're in the playoff. We're not in the playoffs, but we're in the graphic in the hunt,
yeah,
which is a fun place to be. It's
and
an awesome
apparent
place.
and probably still going to the Super Bowl.
Probably, yeah, we probably make a run.
Oh man, but anyway, I'm going to say 20. This is gonna be a weird one, actually. Let's say 23-19. Is
23-19.
this is it's an interesting one. I'm gonna say 23-19. I think the total breaks 40 points, but I still think it's gonna be under. And Luke, we say this now, and it's probably gonna be a highly offensive game that both defenses are gonna
Yeah,
be
it's
rusty.
it's
It,
it's the graphic whenever on game day or whoever when they put all the same teams and they all
yeah,
have they all pick the one team and it turns into it happened with Army and Navy. They all picked Army and Navy killed them. But
yeah.
yeah,
Go go
it'll probably be a 35-42 game, and we look like a bunch of fools.
go Navy beat Army is what
Go
they say
Navy.
on the street. Great game, by the way. That was awesome. I hope to one day go to an Army Navy game. I really would love to go to one in the future. Uh, but yeah,
Who are you? You an Army or Navy man?
I told you, man. I'm in the middle. I had family that served both in the Army and the Navy, so
You
I'm
got to pick
not.
one, Colin.
I can't, man. I can't. I really can't. If I were to really pick one, really have to, I guess I'd go with Navy. But that's just my thing. But
I'm a
either,
Navy guy. I'm a Navy guy.
yeah, I know you are. But either way, so it seems like the keys that we really want to really establish is defense executing on first and second down, secondary. But for the offense, what do you want to see?
Offensively, I want to see those super seniors, those guys that have been here for a while to play. I want to see them get the ball to Ife Dei, Noah Smith. I think if you're looking at a touchdown score, I'm hoping it's one of those two guys that have been here for the long run and they've seen it up and down, up and down. When things didn't look so good and when things were awesome, right? I want to see those guys score the ball. I want to see them get as much, playing time and volume as possible. I think the game plan is very similar to what we've been doing well. I still want to see us get in play action more. I think we could be very good in play action. Getting under center, um, and taking some of these guys deep, and throwing some concepts that I think we could do. We just haven't. Um, but I think we just need to run the ball, keep running the ball. Hunter Watson be tough, and I think if Hunter Watson runs for over 100 yards and Ducker runs for over 100 yards, I think we're going to be in really good shape in this one. And I want to see Ife or Noah Smith score some touchdowns.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and also just be willing to take more risk. I think it would be also another thing I would like to add. Be willing to take risk. It's the end of the year,
Yeah.
but you gotta really try to pull out all your stops in this one to end 2024 on a high note. That will do it for us, Luke. It's been quite a fun year, doing all these podcasts. Of course, we got one more football focused one after the bowl game, but I'm also happy that we're gonna be at New Orleans this Thursday.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun little trip.
It's gonna be fun.
We're driving it, so it'll be good. Colin, you got your credentials on Friday, and Chris and I got ours on Monday. So it'll be fun to be down there. Historic place. I mean, the Superdome has been one of my bucket list places to go.
Same here, man.
Being so close to it, uh, in a way, I guess. I mean, Texas and Louisiana, right? But it's a ways down there. I mean, when you've driven through Louisiana, a lot of times I'm going over through the northern side or even in the middle, going through Baton Rouge. But it's a ways to get down on the boot and go all the way down there to New Orleans. So, I'm super excited for it. Good food down there. Hopefully, find some good local spots. Some hole in the walls, maybe. I don't know, but it'll be good.
Yeah, and if you are a Bearcat and you are going to the game, traveling over there, please get there safely. It seems like a good amount of people might be making the trip over there, Luke. And if it was a
Do not
weekend,
leave anything in your car. Do not leave anything in your car.
yeah, yeah, good sound advice, people. That's some good sound advice. But that'll do it for us here for Sam Houston Sports Talk. That's Luke Scott. I am Colin Neal. Let's hope that the Bearcats can finish off 2024 with a bowl game victory in the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl, December 19th, 6 p.m. Central Time. The only college football game on TV this week for that day rather on ESPN2. So we'll have a lot of national eyes on this one. Gonna be a good one, folks. Hope to see you out there. Once again, Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Time inside Caesars Superdome. As always, eat 'em up, cats. We'll see y'all out there.
Eat 'em up, cats.